So welcome. And we will open this meeting with the land acknowledgement. The land that Eureka rests on is known as, in the Wiyot language, as Jirojiji. Past actions by local, state, and federal governments removed the Wiyot and other indigenous peoples from the land and threatened to destroy their cultural practices. The city of Eureka acknowledged the Wiyot community, their elders both past and present, as well as future generations. This acknowledgement demonstrates the city's commitment to dismantle the ongoing legacies of settler colonialism. And so, could we get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Castellano.
Here.
Councilmember Moulton.
Here.
Councilmember Fernandez.
Here.
Councilmember Bauer.
Here.
Councilmember Contreras de Loche.
Here.
Mayor Burgell.
Here. Oh, now it's my turn. And would all those who care to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, and we are going to begin this meeting, the mayor's announcements, with several proclamations tonight. So tonight we have Volunteer Appreciation Proclamation. Is there someone here to receive that proclamation? Come on up if you would. And I forget who I gave it to. Councilmember Castellano, if you'd read that, please.
Yes, proudly. Hi.
Hello.
This is the City of Eureka Proclamation in recognition of Volunteer Appreciation Month, April 2023. Whereas volunteering one's time and resources has traditionally been and continues to be an elemental part of the essence and tradition of our country and is essential to its spirit and vitality. And whereas we are a community of people who thrive on helping each other towards the shared goal of a better life and future for all. And whereas volunteerism is increasingly recognized as an important partner in government and industry in doing the work of the nation. And whereas volunteerism is vital, fulfilling, and enriching to the participants as well as the recipients of the service and should be encouraged for the benefits to all community at large. And whereas the City Council recognizes the value of Eureka's volunteers, a dedicated group of individuals who are vital to be present to the present and future of our community. Now, therefore, I, Leslie Castellano, on behalf of Mayor Kim Burgell and the Eureka City Council, do hereby proclaim and declare the month of April 2023 to be Volunteer Appreciation Month in Eureka, and honor the volunteers' hard work and selfless dedication in the city of Eureka, making it a better place to live and work.
Thank you. I'd like to say it is an honor to work with Eureka Police Department. They've taught all of us volunteers quite a bit, and they're very caring people. I know you guys all know them personally. They are a great group of people. If you guys don't know them, you guys meet these guys. And we appreciate what they do for us volunteers. And as far as the council, we appreciate everything you guys do for all of us. So thank you for your support. And we need to give all these guys a round of applause. So.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. And we're going to step back for just a moment. City Attorney Luna, is there a report out of closed session?
Thank you, Mayor. There is no report out of closed session tonight.
Thank you. So back to proclamations. This is Bike Month. So Bike Month Humboldt Proclamation, and I believe Councilmember Moulton has that.
Hello, happily.
And we've
Hi
got-
there, welcome. City of Eureka Proclamation in recognition of Bike Month Humboldt, May 2023. Whereas bicycle travel is an effective means to improve air quality, reduce traffic congestion and noise, reduce energy consumption, increase physical activity, and improve public health, and whereas bicycle commuting benefits both employees and employers through better employee health and fitness, reduced costs for commuting and auto parking, and increased employee well-being, and whereas the City of Eureka has completed the Eureka Waterfront Trail and Elk River Extension, which will continue to stimulate increased bicycle and other non-motorized use in the city, and whereas The city of Eureka was awarded a Caltrans Sustainable Communities grant to complete a bike plan that will serve as a citywide bike facility planning document. And whereas the League of American Bicyclists has designated the city of Eureka as a bicycle-friendly community at the bronze level because the city exhibits a sustained commitment to cycling. And whereas the voters of the city of Eureka in November 2022 passed Measure H, which will provide an increased funding for the improvement and maintenance of the city's bikeway system. And whereas the League of American Bicyclists has designated May as Bike Month nationally, and whereas the Bike Month Humboldt Coalition offers many events for bicycle riders of all ages to celebrate bicycling in the Humboldt Bay area in May, including a bicycle celebration at the Jefferson Community Center on Saturday, May 20th. Now, therefore, I, Katie Moulton, on behalf of Mayor Kim Burgell and the Eureka City Council, do hereby proclaim May 2023 as Bike Month Humboldt in the city. And and proclaim May 18th, 2023 as Bike to Work Day in the city. Invites all citizens to support and participate in these and other activities that contribute to the health of the community and the environment, and urges businesses to provide bike parking and other provisions to support bicycle use in the city, and encourages its residents and visitors to ride safely when bicycling in the city, and for motorists to be safe and respectful of cyclists sharing the roads of the city, and encourages residents to ride a bicycle to meet as many of their transportation needs as possible.
Well, hi, thank you for reading that proclamation and for celebrating Bike Month. I'm Stevie Luther. I'm the Associate Planner for HCOG and a member of the Bike Month Humboldt Coalition. And there are just so many benefits to cycling, so we look forward to some nicer weather, hopefully in May, to get out on the bike. And so yeah, Bike to Work Day on May 18th. There'll be an Energizer station and then a big bike celebration at the Jefferson Center on the 20th. So you can see all the events at bikemonthhumboldt.org. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, so next we have a proclamation for the letter carriers, some exciting things happening in May. Councilmember Fernandez, if you'd read that, please. And is there someone here to receive that?
Right.
Thanks, Julie.
Please forgive my seasonal allergies. City of Eureka proclamation in recognition of the 31st Annual Letter Carriers Food Drive, May 13th, 2023. Whereas every year on the second Saturday in May, letter carriers across the country collect non-perishable food as part of the nation's largest one-day food drive, distributing the donations to local food banks such as Food for People, the Food Bank for Humboldt County, and its pantries and individual local communities. And whereas since 1993, the letter carriers Stamp Out Hunger Food Drive has collected more than 1.9 billion pounds of food nationwide, and in 2022 brought in more than 35.7 million pounds of food in more than 10,000 cities in all 50 states. And whereas more than 34 million people live in hunger every day in America, including more than 9 million children, and whereas Humboldt County letter carriers collected more than 33,000 pounds of food from local community members in 2022, providing critical food resources for Food for People's countywide network of 18 food pantries serving more than 16,000 Humboldt County residents of all ages. And whereas the rising cost of living, including gasoline, housing, utilities, and medical care, is having a serious impact on low-income children, seniors, and families, particularly those living on fixed incomes. And whereas we recognize all the letter carriers for their hard work and their commitment to their communities, and we appreciate community members' support of the food drive, all of the food collected in each community stays in that community. And now, therefore, on behalf of Mayor Kim Burgell, on behalf of the City Council, or Eureka City Council, do hereby proclaim the day of Saturday, May 13th, 2023 as National Association of Letter Carriers Food Drive Day, and ask all residents of Eureka for their support by leaving a non-perishable food donation next to their mailbox on the second Saturday in May for their letter carrier to pick up and deliver to local food banks and pantries.
Hello. Hi, I'm Julie Ryan. I'm the Volunteer and Direct Services Manager at Food for People, and I want to thank the City of Eureka for recognizing the annual Letter Carrier Food Drive. It is a national event put on by the Union Letter Carriers, and it is a nationwide event. We are so grateful at Food for People for all of our community partners, all of our community members, and especially our hardworking letter carriers who work 7 days a week. We could not make this event happen without them. Letter carriers are on the front lines of their communities. They know their neighborhoods, they know their routes, they know the people, and they see firsthand that there are people struggling in the community. And even though they work long hours, they really put the time and effort into this 1 day a year to do double duty, deliver letters, and then bring in literally tons of food to our sites, where they are greeted by cheering volunteers who then have the fun job of processing that 33,000 pounds of food into different categories so that we can get it out to the folks who need it. This event is really crucial this time of year with the end of the pandemic era CalFresh. People have seen a significant decrease in their food budget, and those people who are living on the margins, the senior citizens, people with disabilities, veterans, children, they're really struggling to not just to feed themselves, but to feed themselves some decent, nutritious food. So there are many ways this community can participate. You can leave some food for your letter carrier, something that is not going to expire anytime soon would be helpful, and something in a sealed package. And if you'd like to volunteer, you can contact me at Food for People, and I will happily put you to work sorting and labeling and organizing all those cans coming off the mail trucks. But again, just to reiterate, with Food for People, we serve almost 17,000 people a month throughout Humboldt County, and we literally go to all the far corners of the county, and we are seeing a growing need, and we are seeing a lot of good people in this community struggle. So thank you so much for all of your support, and thank you for all the hard work that you do on behalf of the community, because as somebody really wise once said to me, it is much easier to throw rocks than it is to stack rocks. Thank you. You all rock.
Thank you, Julie. All right, and our final proclamation for tonight is Police Week, and that will be Councilmember Bauer. Is there someone coming forward for that? Officer Marcelon, thank you.
All right, thank you. So this is in recognition of California Peace Officer Memorial Week, May 7th through 13th, 2023. Whereas the state of California has declared the week of May 7th through May 13th, 2023 as Peace Officer Memorial Week, and Monday, May 15th, National Peace Officers Memorial Day in the city of Eureka. And whereas the Congress and President of the United States have designated May 15th as National Peace Officers Memorial Day, and the week of May 14th through May 20th as National Police Week. And whereas the members of the Eureka Police Department play an essential role in safeguarding the rights and freedoms of the city of Eureka. And whereas it is important that all citizens know and understand the duties, responsibilities, hazards, and sacrifices of their law enforcement personnel, and that members of our law enforcement agency recognize their duty to serve the people by safeguarding their life and property, by protecting them against violence and disorder, and by protecting the innocent against deception and the weak against oppression. And whereas the men and women of the Eureka Police Department unceasingly provide a vital public service. Now, therefore, on behalf of Kimber Gill, Mayor of the City of Eureka, call upon all citizens of the City of Eureka and upon all patriotic, civic, and educational organizations to observe the week of May 7th through May 13th, 2023 as California Police Week, with appropriate ceremonies and observances in which all of our people may join in commemorating law enforcement officers, past and present, who, by their faithful and loyal devotion to their responsibilities, have rendered a dedicated service to their communities, and in so doing have established for themselves an enviable, inviolable, and enduring reputation for preserving the rights and security of all citizens. I further call upon all citizens of the City of Eureka to honor those law enforcement officers who, through their courageous deeds, have made the ultimate sacrifice in service to their community or have become disabled in the performance of duty, and let us recognize and pay respect to the survivors of our fallen heroes. Let us especially remember those Eureka police officers who died in the line of duty: Pete Carroll, Pat Mitchell, and Charlie Swanson.
Thank you, Council. Thank you, City staff. I'm Tim Marcelon with the Eureka Police Department, and I am proud and very humbled to accept this proclamation. That was well done, and there is one highlight in particular: the sacrifice. Every day is a sacrifice, and we cannot forget the sacrifice, especially with the 3 officers that you read that gave their life in the line of duty for the City of Eureka. So, on behalf of the City of Eureka Police Department, men and women that serve proudly every day, I gladly accept this proclamation. Thank you.
Thank you. And I don't think we say it enough, but we appreciate you and all you do for our community, 100%. As far as mayor's announcements, I just have a few things I wanted to report on. One thing is a super exciting event happened in Albuquerque recently at the Gathering of Nations, and we wanted to offer a congratulations to Tori McConnell, Miss Indian World 2023. She's Karuk and Yurok, and she's from here and will be coming back to Cal Poly. So it's just a really great and exciting thing for our community to have that recognition, and great for her as well. Second off, I wanted to thank the Heritage Society, who I got to ride with in the Rhododendron Parade. I also want to thank the Rotary that brought that forward every year. Tradition is so important, and it's so wonderful to be a part of that. I've been going to that since I was, much smaller, and I have always enjoyed it. And it was really great being able to have the Mayor's Award and to, most original was for the cyclists this year, the Humboldt Bike Party, and they do a great job. They dress up, and if you've never been out with them, which I never have but plan to soon, they have a lot of fun if you'll see them out and about. And then I'm just going to tell you a couple of the highlights of the last 2 weeks. So the other highlight, probably the best part of the last 2 weeks for me, it was Take Your Child to Work Week for our employees here, for our work family. And so parents brought their kids in, and we got to have pizza lunch. And then we got to do this really fabulous mock council meeting. So all of the kids got to be, one person was the mayor, and then each person got to be a council member. And then we had the city attorney and the city attorney assistant. We had the Miles Slattery, the city manager, and we did have an extra seat, so we invited Supervisor Arroyo to be a part of our meeting as well. And so it was just a great time. I think the kids really enjoyed it, and hopefully they'll remember that, and remember that, their voice is important, and they too are a part of our community in very big and very large ways. So that was really wonderful. Just a couple of reminders. This coming Saturday, May 6th, I guess that would be, is Brew at the Zoo, and that's happening at 6 o'clock. So if you like beer and you like the zoo, that's a great opportunity to hang out and support our local zoo. May is Mental Health Month, and I think this is really important. One of the things that I'm doing this month is I'm challenging myself for better self-care, and because I think, after COVID and all of that isolation and being alone, it's really important to take care of ourselves and to really take care of our mental health so we can be of use to other people. So that's like my challenge to myself. And I would encourage other people to take a challenge too, whether that's getting out in nature or taking a walk or drinking more water or just being nice. That's a great plan as well. May 16th, the county will be having their mental health walk. It starts at the Hope Center. They'll have sign making before that. So you can walk with them from 11:30 to 1:30. It's always really a fun time. You get to meet a lot of people. And then we are planning our next town hall, which will be June 4th right here in council chambers. Similar format, and it will be on homelessness, but it is called The Dynamics of the Unhoused. So put that on your calendar. We hope to see you there. Lots of great things happening in our city. It's awesome. So with that, we will move on to our favorite part of the night, public comment period. This is the time for members of the public who wish to be heard on matters that do not appear on the agenda. City Council policy is to limit each speaker to 3 minutes. Such time allotment or portion thereof shall not be transferred to other speakers. The public will be allowed to speak concurrently with the calling of an agenda item following the staff presentation of that item. Pursuant to the Brown Act, the City Council may not take action on an item that does not appear on the agenda. So if you'd like to speak at public comment, you can come on up. Hello and welcome.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. My name is Roy Gomez. I've been a business owner, resident, and commercial property owner in the city of Eureka for almost half my life. I come to you tonight to talk about ethics, namely the city of Eureka's Code of Ethics and Conduct for elected and appointed officials. This Code of Ethics was adopted by the city of Eureka and has negligently gone unreviewed since 2017. This negligence has now personally affected me and my business, and I am confident that it will affect others if not addressed. On April 5th, my attorney, on my behalf, wrote to the mayor per the Code of Ethics requesting that the mayor address violations and city Code of Ethics by Councilmember Castellano. The Code of Ethics states, "It is the responsibility of the mayor to initiate action if the council member's behavior warrants sanctions. If no action is taken by the mayor, the alleged violations can be brought up with the full council in a public meeting." It's now been almost a month, Mayor. And there's been no response from you or anybody at the city for that matter. So I'm bringing this up to the full council in a public meeting. You, as a public official, have a duty to not only communicate with me, but to also be transparent. Eureka's City Code of Ethics is similar to many other cities in that it serves as a guideline for elected officials of the city. The purpose of the code states, the Eureka City Council has adopted a code of ethics and conduct for members of the City Council and city boards and commissions to assure public confidence in the integrity of local government and its effective and fair operations. The citizens and businesses of Eureka are entitled to have fair, ethical, and accountable local government, which has earned the public's full confidence for integrity. I'm here to talk about what's arguably the most important part of this code of ethics, the use of public office for public good and not for personal gain. The Code of Ethics is very clear on this and it is defined in paragraph 11 and 7 of the code. 11, representation of private interests. Members of the council shall not appear on behalf of private interests of third parties before the council or any board, commissions, or proceedings of the city, nor shall members of boards and commissions appear before their own bodies or before council on behalf of private interests or third parties on matters of the areas of service of their bodies. Number 7, conflict of interest. Members shall not use their official position to influence government decisions in which they have material financial interest or where they have an organizational responsibility and personal relationship which may give the appearance of a conflict of interest. In closing, have any of you read the conflicts, or have any of you read the Code of Ethics? Have any of you signed the Model of Excellence? Where is it? When was the last time it was reviewed? Has it been reviewed annually the way the Code of Ethics has said it's supposed to be reviewed? It is not, Miles. This is what you did to me as a constituent, a supporter of you, Leslie Castellano, was wrong. Every time you go
Thank
on
you,
your social
Roy.
media
Your 3 minutes are up, hon.
and ask people to donate to the ink people, it's a conflict of interest.
Thanks, Roy.
Read the ethics. Thank you. That's for you.
Hello and welcome.
Hello, my name is Sharice Thompson, and I will be reading from the Holy Bible, New King James Version. The beginning of knowledge. The Proverbs of Solomon, the son of David, king of Israel. To know wisdom and instruction, to perceive the words of understanding, to receive the instruction of wisdom, justice, judgment, and equity. To give prudence to the simple, to the young man knowledge and discretion. A wise man will hear and increase learning, and a man of understanding will attain wise counsel. To understand a proverb and an enigma, the words of the wise and their riddles. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction. My son, hear the instruction of your father, and do not forsake the law of your mother, for they will be a graceful ornament on your head and chains about your neck. My son, if sinners entice you, do not consent. If they say, come with us, let us lie in wait to shed blood. Let us lurk secretly for the innocent without cause. Let us swallow them alive like Sheol, and whole like those who go down to the pit. We shall find all kinds of precious possessions. We shall fill our houses with spoil. Cast in your lot among us. Let us all have one purse. My son, do not walk in the way with them. Keep your foot from their path, for their feet run to evil, and they make haste to shed blood. Surely in vain the net is spread in the sight of any bird, but they lie in wait for their own blood. They lurk secretly for their own lives. So are the ways of everyone who is greedy for gain. It takes away the life of its owners. Wisdom calls aloud outside. She raises her voice in the open squares. She cries out in the chief concourses. At the openings of the gates in the city, she speaks her words. How long, you simple ones, will you love simplicity? For scorners delight in their scorning, and fools hate knowledge. Turn at my rebuke. Surely I will pour out my spirit on you. I will make my words known to you, because I have called you and you refused. I have stretched out my hand and no one regarded, because you disdained all my counsel and would have none of my rebuke. I also will laugh at your calamity. I will mock when your terror comes like a storm, and your destruction comes like a whirlwind. When distress and anguish come upon you, then they will call on me, but I will not answer. They will seek me diligently, but they will not find me. Because they hated knowledge and did not choose fear of the Lord, they would have none of my counsel and despised my every rebuke. Therefore they shall eat fruit of their own way and be filled to the full with their own fancies. For the turning away of the simple will slay them, and the complacencies of fools will destroy them. But whoever listens to me will dwell safely and will be secure without fear of evil. You will be seeing me more often here to do just this. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for being here.
Hello. Good evening. My name is Keith Lorang, and I've been a pharmacist in this county for about 8 years. Let me show you some of these pictures here. First off, these are pictures.
Please direct your comments to council,
of
Keith.
me. These are pictures of me on your public streets. Okay, on November 30th, 2020, approximately 1 p.m., I was on the way to a meeting in Eureka. I had parked my car along 7th Street on Eureka and was walking south on 8th Street. Unfortunately, for me, I became the city's latest victim of its cracked and elevated sidewalks. So, this is what I looked like the next day. I tripped and went down, and I went down hard. I went down on my right side and lost consciousness. When I woke up, I was on the sidewalk, and a very nice lady who was driving by had stopped and was over me and asking me if I was okay. I wasn't okay, and I couldn't remember anybody standing over me by the time I got to the hospital. So, anyway, because I continued to have pain after the fall and surgery was coming up, I needed to file against the city of Eureka for my injuries. I recently received a rejection of my claim, and I felt it was important for me to let you know about the response I received from the city. It was not only dismissive of my injuries, but it was threatening. In the response I received from the city, it stated that if I filed a lawsuit for any injuries against the city, it would seek attorney's fees and costs against me. Clearly, this response was meant to intimidate me into filing a lawsuit. Rather than substantially respond to my claim, the city dismissed it out of hand and did not take any actions against my injuries. If the city wants to avoid lawsuits, it should be fixed on the
So
side
Keith,
rods.
I'm sorry to tell you, but your 3 minutes are up. Would you be willing to send that to us?
Yes.
Thank you so much. Thanks for being here.
Okay. Very good. Thank you. I am 71, still working and still paying taxes.
Thank you, Keith. Welcome.
Welcome, thank you. My name is Caroline Still, and I'm going to be reading Psalms 1. Blessed is the man who walks not in the counsel of ungodly. Yeah, we'll do that. Blessed is the man who walks not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor stands in the paths of sinners, nor sits in the seats of scornful. But his delight in the law of the Lord, and his law he meditates day and night. He shall be like a tree planted in the rivers of water, that brings forth its fruit in its season, whose leaf also shall not wither. And whatever he does shall prosper. The ungodly are not so, but are like the chaff which the wind drives away. Therefore the ungodly shall not stand in judgment, nor a sinner in the congregation of righteous. For the Lord knows the way of the righteous, but the way of the ungodly shall perish. Thank you.
Thanks for being here. Hello and welcome.
Hi. My name is James Still, and I'm a Christian, and God spoke to me about reading some of the Bible to you. What I'm reading from the Bible is Isaiah chapter 58. It talks about a fast, but this is not abstaining from food. This is a righteousness fast. What is righteousness? Righteousness, simply put, is right standing with God. We can't navigate without a compass when we are lost, and the same goes when we are without God. We need Him to navigate for us. Cry out loud, do not hold back. Lift up your voice like a trumpet. Declare to my people their transgression, to the house of Jacob their sins. Yet they seek me daily, and delight to know my ways, as if they were a nation that did righteousness, and did not forsake the judgment of their God. They ask of me righteous judgments. They delight to draw near to God. Why have we fasted, and you see it not? Why have we humbled ourselves, and you take no knowledge of it? Behold, in the day of your fast you seek your own pleasure, and oppress all your workers. Behold, you fast only to quarrel and fight, and to hit with a wicked fist. Fasting like yours this day will not make your voice to be heard on high. And such the fast that I choose, a day for a person to humble himself. Is it to bow down his head like a reed, and to spread sackcloth and ashes under him? Will you call this a fast, and a day acceptable to the Lord? Is not this the fast that I chose to loose the bonds of wickedness, to undo the straps of the yoke, and to let the oppressed go free, and to break every yoke? Is it not to share your bread with the hungry, and to bring the homeless poor into your house? When you see the naked, to cover him, and not to hide yourself from your own flesh. Then shall your light break forth like the dawn, and your healing shall spring up speedily. Your righteousness shall go before you. The glory of the Lord shall be your rear guard. Then you shall call, and the Lord will answer. You shall cry, and he will say, Here I am. If you take away the yoke from your midst, the pointing of the finger and the speaking wickedness, if you pour yourself out for the hungry, and satisfy the desire of the afflicted, then shall your light rise in the darkness, and your gloom be as the noonday. And the Lord will guide you continually, and satisfy your desire in scorched places, and make your bones strong. And you shall be like a watered garden, like a spring of water whose waters do not fail. And your ancient ruins shall be rebuilt, and you shall raise up the foundations of many generations. You shall be called the repairer of the breach, the restorer of streets in which to dwell. If you turn back your foot from the Sabbath, from doing your pleasure on my holy day, and call the Sabbath a delight, and the holy day of the Lord honorable. I implore you on Christ's behalf, be reconciled to God. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for being here. Welcome.
Normally I'll go first, but I figured I'd listen to a couple other people this time. I wanted to start out with well, I was going to ask for a big round of applause. I really understand that applause is frowned upon unless it's somebody you want clapped for, but the whole bicycle thing with trying to turn city streets into bike lanes and putting low-income housing developments on parking lots that end up being just regular commercial developments that we pay for and then don't profit off of. All these efforts and then the proclamation, for riding bikes about how healthy it is, everybody should ride a bike. And I was going to ask for a big round of applause for every council member who rode their bike here tonight, but I noticed the rack is empty as usual. Scooter didn't even ride one of his electric scooters. So I guess, once again, I guess that was just a bunch of hot air. Moving on from that, I'd like to say a lot more about the new dirt center. Aren't you proposing putting a low-income housing development on prime waterfront real estate down there? Is that going to turn into another dirt center that's that's presented as a low-income housing development, and then once it's a done deal, you admit that, oh no, it's just a regular commercial development that we pay for and don't profit from? I'm just kind of wondering wondering about the clarification on that. But and beyond that, I happened to be able to watch the podcast today that our mayor did with my nephew, and I was struck by our mayor's professed ignorance of common current events, and specifically regarding the issue of drag shows for kids. And I got a little bit of time left. But I noticed that one of the things that was said was that there is no problem, we should have no problem with drag shows for kids because there's porn on the internet and music videos are nasty. And my thought is that our goal in life, our purpose in life, isn't to find the lowest common denominator and try to slide under it. Our purpose in life is to try to find the highest point and aspire to it, and that's what we should be doing.
Thank you, Mr. Parr. Welcome.
Hi, my name's Harry Wilcox. I've been here in Eureka 18 going on 19 years, and I've lived on N Street all that period of time, and I had to sell my car because the parts for the front end have gotten so expensive it just wasn't worth it anymore. And today, Nazi Javid from the news channel, she asked for locations of bad streets in Eureka. And as I said to her, from 7th to 14th on N Street, it's a horror show. To slalom. And funny thing is I just got a message back from somebody who said they avoid N Street because they know how bad it is. I don't understand why arts and murals take precedence over city streets. I also don't understand why arts and murals take precedence over mental health. Just recently, I attended the mental health town hall, and I'm going to attend the next one. And I heard a lot of good stuff, but words are words. People are still out there, still mentally ill without treatment. They're still out there doing drugs, which is also mentally ill. I know, 40 years as an alcoholic and a junkie. It's a mental illness. It needs to be treated. And if I hadn't gone through 28 rehabs, I wouldn't know all this. But what bothers me the most is you can give a lot of lip service to things, but if you don't physically get out there and make your presence known, outreach should be very in your face, right up there, so everybody walking the street sees a van going by. In New York, we have vans, they call them hack vans, Homeless Action Center. And there's 6 of them, and they patrol the streets day and night. And they make contact. Yes, I know some of these people will not accept help. That's where we need to go to legislature, have it changed so that they can be mandatorily brought in for help. Because when you're on drugs, you don't make good decisions. Obviously, drugs ain't a good decision. But I am so tired of hearing the lip service about mental health, period. The other issue I have is medical help. The doctors here are rotational. They don't care. They don't get to know the patients. I know I'm short. I was just recently in the ER with high blood pressure, tachycardia. All they did was give me a drug and send me home. I don't have a cardiologist because he left. We got to do something about retaining doctors. Thank you.
Thank you, Harry. So is there anybody else out there that would like to come and comment? Welcome, Mr. Lowenstein.
Good to see you. Good to see all those engaged citizens back there, the concerned citizens, the caring citizens, the citizens that are upset and fed up with the incompetence that we're being governed by. I'm glad that certain people get held personally accountable via lawsuits. Well deserved, well deserved. I hope you'll get it. I hope that Arkley will give it to you. I hope that, he will be successful against you, because the level of corruption that has infested and festered in the city council and in the seat of mayor is pretty disgusting. I'm really delighted to see so many fellow believers in Christ here, and I could tell that the Holy Spirit was strong while they were speaking. And I would like to pray quickly for the countless local victims of the opioid epidemic. One of them just recently died right here in front of City Hall on 5th and K Street, by the way, was found there early in the morning, overdosed. We can think about the priest that got butchered into goulash-sized pieces down the road here. We can think of the 16-year-old boy that got stabbed to death at the graveyard, crying for his parents. We can think of the girl that got butchered in the parking lot of Hilfiger. We can think of the lady that got crushed in the recycling bin. So it's an ongoing issue, and those people are all individuals that had a life and that was cut short because of the opioid epidemic, to which we cater around here. And we have to admit that enabling equals prolonging and deepening and worsening of the crisis, and it doesn't work. So we have to reverse course 180 degrees if need to. We have to start putting Eureka first. We can't listen to out of the area experts. They can take a freaking hike. This is our community with very unique problems. We can't apply harm reduction models that supposedly work in San Francisco, Sacramento, Oakland, or LA, and we see how they work or don't. We can't apply them here in rural California. Stop lying to the people. Admit the scope and size of the problem so it can be addressed as one community. Be a leader. Show how a small town can tackle the most imminent and pressing issue that our community is facing, as Judge Neely put it, and be a trailblazer in the right direction. Do what's right for this community, not what people in Sacramento or San Francisco think is right for us. Harm reduction has failed this community. We have to think along the lines of harm none, aka no one in this community can be suffering, can suffer for the fallout of the opioid epidemic. Be accountable politicians, be publicly held accountable, be responsible, govern as well. Stop the idiocy that's going on in the city government.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak? Seeing none, we'll bring it over to Zoom. And it looks like we have Ash.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Well, I just wanted to.
You're kind of quiet, Ash.
Okay, is that better?
No, you're still kind of quiet. Maybe you could get closer to your microphone?
Yeah, I'm like right up in it here.
That's better.
Is this better?
Yes.
Okay, well, I just wanted to talk a little bit today about the kind of what went on at the Board of Supervisors meeting. I don't know if it's going to make it your guys' way to renew your proclamation on hate and stuff. But if you do, I hope you will think a little more about it, like the Ferndale City Council did. And like in this situation, like the Lost Coast Outpost and the Board of Supervisors, they both like jumped on the wagon, like acknowledging this completely manufactured hate comment. I mean, there was a second comment, issued on the petition to end drag shows for kids that admitted that the comment was fake, and it was just put there as like some kind of bait and switch test for our website, lostcoastpopulist.com. So, and in a recent report with John Kennedy O'Connor, he failed to even mention that it was a fake comment. Just said that it was an attack on the LGBTQ community, which is horrible. No one wants, attack on anyone. But to just be going around and calling fake things real, just to like push some kind of political narrative it's just gross. It's sickening. And I'd hope if it comes your way that you could do a little bit better than that. Thank you.
Thanks, Ash. Do you see anybody else, Shannon?
Seeing none.
No? So seeing none, we're going to close public comment and bring it to the consent calendar. All matters listed under this category are considered to be routine by the City Council and will be enacted by one motion. Pursuant to City Council Resolution 2011-22, if a member of the public would like an item on the consent calendar pulled and discussed separately, the request shall be made to a council member prior to the meeting. Unless a specific request is made by a council member, the consent calendar will not be read. There will be no separate discussion of these items. And so I have F4 being pulled. Are there any other items to be pulled? Okay. All right. So with that, could we get a motion to approve the balance of the consent calendar?
Move to approve the consent calendar minus F4.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you. Please vote.
Unanimous yes vote, motion carries.
Thank you. All right. F4, application for Upstate California Creative Corps Grant Funds.
And I'm going to recuse myself from this one.
Thank you, Councilmember Castellano.
Oh, does that mean I should also recuse myself?
I don't know.
I think that's a question for Autumn.
Oh. So is the City Manager Slattery?
Yes. Good evening, Mayor and Council. This item here is a request that Council authorize staff to apply for an Upstate California Creative Corps grant.
Excuse me one moment, City Manager Slattery. So,
Yes.
Councilmember Moulton, did you have a question for City Attorney Luna?
I was just trying to figure out if I need to recuse myself. I don't work for the Inc. people, but I contract for them. Was that why Councilmember Castellano recused herself?
My understanding
Go ahead.
is that Councilmember Castellano, in her position as Executive Director for Inc. People, receive funds through this grant program.
Okay. I do not.
Yeah, I think there was a direct financial benefit.
Okay.
It sounds like yours is more
Yeah,
remote at best.
I don't work for
No
them. I
financial
don't
benefit.
have a paycheck from them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. City Manager Slattery, carry on.
Thanks again, Mayor. So yeah, this is once again staff requesting authorization from council to apply for a Creative Corps grant. The Creative Corps grant came from the state. It's part of a large funding grant opportunity that our Cape staff are looking into. The grant funding is managed through Nevada County, and they are considered the grant administrator for this, so the grant application would go to them for consideration. The project that staff is looking to fund is a certain amount of funds in order to hire a artist to work on zines, which are old school. I don't know if we're all old enough to remember what zines are, but zines are kind of hip magazines that are done on a lower level. Anyway, the plan is to reach out to different disadvantaged communities, the homeless populations, veteran populations, and create artwork and other material for a zine to be put out quarterly. And so that's what this grant application would be for. So staff is requesting authorization to seek that grant funding.
Thank you. Questions? Councilmember Fernandez.
So just to briefly address some of the concerns earlier, this is a grant that comes from the state being handled by another county, correct?
Correct.
It doesn't come from any of our general fund. It doesn't take away from our streets. It doesn't take away from mental health. This specifically comes from the state geared at arts.
As is all grant funding, it is collected for a specific purpose and then distributed through the state for that specific purpose and could not be used for other purposes.
That's all.
Thank you. Any further questions? Seeing none, we'll open it up to public comment. Would anyone from the public like to comment on this item? How about anybody on Zoom? Do you see anyone? I do not. Seeing none, we'll bring it back to council for a motion, a second, and hopefully a vote. Councilmember Bauer.
I'll motion to authorize staff to apply for Upstate California Creative Corps grant funds.
I'll second.
Okay. Motion has been made, seconded. Please vote.
Unanimous yes vote. Councilmember Castellano is absent. Motion carries.
Thank you. Come on up. Okay, now's the time to bring forward future agenda. Oh, no, it's not. It's time for legislative action correspondence. That's what it's for. Do we have any? Go ahead.
I'm curious because I don't know if it would apply towards legislation or a future action item, but to sign on to the, where did I put it? Sorry. The county's letter against hate put out on April 27th. If we could look into that.
I would classify that likely as a future agenda item.
Okay.
There's not really any legislation related to that.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
Thank you. Everyone else is good? Okay. Then moving forward to ordinances and resolutions. Report and action items. Housing Element Annual Progress Report with Principal Planner Kristen Getz.
So good evening, Mayor and Council. Before you this evening is the required annual progress report for our housing element from January 1st to December 31st, 2022. State housing element law requires the city to accommodate a share of the total projected housing needs for Humboldt County for the planning period, which is also called a cycle. This share, called Regional Housing Needs Allocation, or RHNA, is important because state law mandates each jurisdiction provide sufficient land to accommodate a variety of housing opportunities for all economic segments of the community. Compliance with this requirement is measured by the jurisdiction's ability to provide adequate land with adequate density and appropriate development standards to accommodate the RHNA. The Humboldt County Association of Governments, or HCOG, as the regional planning agency, is responsible for allocating the RHNA to individual jurisdictions in the region. For the current housing element, the sixth cycle covers 2019 to 2027, and the jurisdictions within Humboldt County have been allocated a total of 3,390 dwelling units. The total RHNA allocation for the county is distributed across the 4 housing income levels, which include very low, low, moderate, and above moderate income. HCOG then assigns the RHNA to each incorporated city and the unincorporated portion of the county, and for this cycle, the city of Eureka was assigned 952 units. This graph shows the city of Eureka's arena allocation in orange as compared to the overall countywide allocation in blue by income level, with 231 very low income units, 147 low income units, 172 moderate income units, and 402 above moderate income units. So originally, when the housing element was adopted in 2019, the sites were divided, or sites that were available for development were divided into two categories. The first was housing development on non-site specific parcels, which meant the parcels were not specifically listed by assessor parcel number in the housing element. The second way that we were going to develop housing was through site-specific parcels. These were specifically identified by parcel number in the housing element, and housing development on non-site specific parcels could be created through construction of accessory and or junior accessory dwelling units, small lot conservation subdivisions, and division or conversion of existing space. Development on site-specific parcels could be created on either vacant or non-vacant sites, and those also included housing on city-owned lots. The city was supposed to construct 160 dwelling units as a result of each development type, for a total of 480 units by the end of the housing element cycle. In early 2021, when the city began working on the amendment to the housing element, the State Department of Housing and Community Development, or HCD, determined that the city had not been making enough progress toward the projected development on non-specific sites. Even if I include information from this year's annual report, only 54 units on the non-specific parcels received a certificate of occupancy since 2019. And at the end of 2020, when we're halfway through the housing element cycle, and we need 426 more units in these development categories, that means that we've only completed 11% of the units we needed to have on non-site specific sites. So in the housing element update, while we can still count dwelling units created on non-site specific parcels in our arena, we're not going to rely on them to show that we have adequate land with adequate density and appropriate development standards. The city tracks and reports to HCD the total number of building permits that are submitted each year for residential uses. We also track when a building permit is approved, which means the plans have been submitted and have been reviewed for conformance with building, fire, and zoning codes, as well as public works requirements. And basically the permit is ready to go, but it hasn't actually been issued yet. Issuance of a residential building permit is the third thing that we track. And when a building permit is issued, it means fees have been paid and work can begin. Lastly, we track and report when a certificate of occupancy is granted for a residence. A certificate of occupancy means all required inspections have been completed and passed, and owners or renters can start living in the residence. One thing to keep in mind as you review the information relating to the number of building permits, except when we include prior years, the information shown in the report is only for the building permits which were applied, approved, issued, or received certificates of occupancy between January 1st and December 31st of 2022. So if someone applied for a permit in 2018 and it was approved a couple of months later, but they didn't pick it up until the summer of 2019, and then it took them almost 2 years to finish the project and get a certificate of occupancy, that permit would show up in 3 different housing element APRs. It would show up as applied and approved in 2018, issued in 2019. It would not show up in the 2020 report, and we would report it as receiving a certificate of occupancy in 2021. There also may be building permits which are completed in the same year, and then the permit would only show up in one housing element APR, but in all 4 of the categories that we report. So here are the residential building permit numbers which were submitted in 2022, and I'm showing them by income level with 109 residential permit applications. If we add in the total building permit applications that were submitted from 2019 to 2021, there are a total of 297 units, which totals 406 applications for dwelling units. For building permits we approved in 2022, we had a total of 89 dwelling units, and adding in the 69 units that were approved between 2019 and 2021, we've approved 158 dwelling units. A total of 85 permits were issued in 2022, with 38 issued between 2019 and 21, for a total of 123 dwelling units. And finally, a total of 54 dwelling units received certificates of occupancy in 2022, with 109 certificates issued between 2019 and 21. And that totals 163 newly created dwelling units since 2019. So that's my report for you, and I'm happy to answer any questions that I can.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for Principal Planner Getz? Councilmember Castellano?
Thanks for the report, and thanks for all of your ongoing work on the housing element and helping us meet our RENA numbers. It's really, much appreciated. I did, send some questions earlier, but I just wanted to ask a few, and some of them aren't, or just things that, in terms of thinking about how this report reflects upon our work towards housing in general. I think the first one, I only saw one indication in the report that there was a prefab unit that was permitted, or a pad for a prefab unit. And I was kind of curious to learn from that in terms of, was that from your perspective, was there a model there that could be built upon or could be kind of spread or shared? Sometimes in housing discussions it comes up of like, well, if only we could get more prefab units into the area, we could more rapidly address our housing needs.
So prefab units or manufactured homes are allowed by our zoning code. They do have some specific requirements for things like the roofing materials that are used on them, siding materials, and those kinds of things, with the ultimate goal of them fitting into residential neighborhoods when they're not in mobile home parks, kind of thing. But manufactured homes can certainly be used for residential units. If they meet the requirements for an accessory dwelling unit, they can be used in that manner. And I believe that the one that is in the report was used as an accessory dwelling unit. So it's certainly possible. They do need to be put on a permanent foundation. That's what that particular building permit was for. And for some folks, it may just be easier to go out and buy a pre-manufactured or a manufactured home and bring it to their site and install it, as opposed to doing a stick built.
And have you seen anyone, I know there's a lot of kind of like ideas around 3D printing and, that kind of prefab. Do you know if anyone locally has been exploring those options in the city?
Not that I'm aware of, and I'm not sure what kind of requirements there might be from the building or fire code in relation to 3D printing a dwelling unit or a structure.
Great. I can share a question asking if that... Go ahead. Go ahead? Mm-hmm. Okay. All right, I'll ask you. Okay. I know that, in 2022, there were very few very low or extremely low income units. But I know we have some in the works, like the navigation center and the housing near the fire training space. Could you remind me how many units those two sites would, and are there any more that I'm missing? I know there might be a couple of hotels that are in process, or.
So the housing down on Hillficker can accommodate up to 40 people.
Okay.
I apologize, I don't know the numbers for the navigation
It's okay.
center.
Yeah, it's 11.
It's 11.
It's 11 right now. It could potentially be 12.
Okay. The hotel or motel over on 4th Street at M Street is being converted into low-income housing. I want to say there's in the vicinity of 40, but I haven't checked that number recently, so that's...
It's okay. Yeah.
a
An,
guess.
an approximate is great too. Yeah, thanks. Okay. I'm glad to see there's something planned. And then
And if we're looking at certificate of occupancy, we haven't gotten the 7th and Myrtle
No.
yet, and that's 34, correct?
Yes. And that's senior housing.
sorry.
Okay, while you're looking, I'm gonna
Council.
call on Councilmember Fernandez.
I just need a little help understanding some of the acronyms here, particularly SFA, SFD. I think I figured out EDU.
SFA, single family attached. SFD, single family detached.
Okay. And so these are all units, at least based on the attachments that we received, these are all units that are...
Your mic's not on.
Oh, sorry. There we go. So these are all units in some way or another that are on someone else's land, or at least adjacent to another housing unit, I assume. I guess I'm trying to figure out how to phrase that better. I apologize. There's a single family home, perhaps, and then you've got your accessory dwelling unit, or attached or detached, correct? Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So I have another question for another time then. Okay. Thank you.
Did you find what you were looking for?
Yeah.
Councilmember Castellano.
Kind of a mad professor moment. I was curious if this tied into some of the things in Table D. Have we done any research into Fiona Ma's Dream for All program? It's a program supporting first-time home buyers.
To my knowledge, the planning department has not looked at that. That might be something, though, that the housing division has looked at.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we do still operate a first-time home buyer program, but I could bring back to council a report on, or we can just talk to you directly with housing to see if we've looked into the states.
Yeah, this is a program specifically funded by the state to support first-time home buyers. It's kind of a pilot program, and I'm excited to see someone in our area apply and qualify, but I feel like it's a kind of a underutilized program. So, and then
interestingly, if I could just add, it can provide up to 20% of the costs. So
right, yeah,
that could be a big chunk.
It's a very cool program. That's why I'm like, we've got to get someone to qualify. And then has there, I know in section IMPH 18, housing for special needs populations on Table D, I was just curious if, I know it will be implemented this year, and has there been any input thus far from organizations that support people with disabilities, or people with disabilities who are maybe struggling with housing?
Not specifically.
Okay. Yeah.
I think it's just when we were working on the Earth Center, the design team that was working there worked with Tri-Counties and another disability group with that whole design, incorporated their input.
Thank you.
That's all. Councilmember Fernandez.
So let's see. You've helped me define what some of those are, and then we have here where it says tenure, renter, owner, and they're all renters. And so these are all renters for these particular units. And so would it be possible then that they can establish these, ADUs, SFDs, and provide ownership then to the people renting, or how would that work?
The potential would certainly be there.
Mm-hmm.
Most of these are either, as you kind of indicated, that there's maybe already a single family residence on the site and they're adding an accessory dwelling unit.
Mm-hmm.
Legally, because those are on the same parcel, unless they meet really specific circumstances, the ADU cannot be sold separately from the house.
Okay.
Unless they do a subdivision, which could be possible. In the instances where they're building a single family residence and an ADU at the same time on a vacant parcel, certainly a property owner could choose to live in either of the units in the future. The reason that all of these I think are renters is because either folks are already living on the site and building the ADU, and so we have no indication that they're going to move into that ADU. They're remaining in the main structure, or they own property someplace else and live there. And I mean, it's certainly possible that somebody built a house and then moved from their current location to it, but we don't have that kind of information in the record after the fact, so that most of these appear to be rentals.
Okay. And so do we have any established affordable for sale housing? I know that's a conversation for...
Yeah.
I'm just trying to get an idea of...
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
I've not checked the real estate market in relation to what's available out there. So I'm sorry, I don't know.
It's a more nuanced question than that. That's, like I said, it's a question for another day. So I wasn't trying to put you on the spot. Sorry.
Thank you. Councilmember Castellano?
I just sort of it's kind of a broad question, but it's really looking towards your expertise as a planner and, with this document. What do you feel, after having been engaged with this now for quite a few years, like our biggest kind of possible areas for growth with housing might be in terms of, are there things we're not doing, or are there things that, after reflecting on this, that you feel like different programs we might want to try or consider?
I think that the program that we are working on to provide construction funding for accessory dwelling units is a really important one, because there basically is, no local lenders who are willing to lend for accessory dwelling units. And I think that is potentially a huge barrier to development of additional dwelling units. I think that we always suffer from the fact that the city is built out and there's not a lot of vacant land to build on. The easy parcels have already been developed on, so the ones that are more challenging are the ones that are still vacant. I think that the city has done a really good job in making changes to our zoning code and our requirements wherever we can to try and make it easier for folks to build on maybe some of those more challenging lots, and also to add additional units, along with the changes in the state law for urban lot splits and that kind of thing, as far as adding additional units to properties that already are developed. So it's very challenging for us, and haven't found the magic key yet.
Okay, do you have any further questions? Seeing none, we'll open it up to public comment. Does anybody in the audience care to comment on this item? Seeing none, we'll bring it over to Zoom. Do you see anybody on Zoom? I do not. Okay, seeing none, we'll bring it back to council for comments and a motion.
We don't. Just receive.
It's just a report. It absolutely is. Thank you. So we'll move on to our general plan annual progress report again with Principal Planner Getz.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So this is our general plan annual progress report that we're required by state law to submit to the state of California. I don't have a PowerPoint presentation for you on this one. It's just the report itself, and I'm happy to answer any questions about it that I can.
So do we have any questions for Principal Planner Getz? Okay. This is also a report. Councilmember Castellano.
It's really basic. On implementation HCP-8, what is apply for CLG grant funds?
CLG, Certified Local Government.
Okay.
That's through historic preservation.
Thank you.
Any questions or comments? Seeing none, this is just a report, so we're going to move forward. Oh, until we have one more question or comment.
Well, it's just that maybe since this is our time to chat about the report, just one thing for implementation AQ-1, I guess it's number 1. The work on a regional climate action plan has been underway since November 2018, slowed by COVID-19. The plan is anticipated to be adopted in early 2024. I'm just curious if we could, before adoption, if we could get an update sometime between now and the point of adoption.
Absolutely, we can certainly work on that.
Super. Thank you.
Good. Okay. So is anyone here from the public who would like to comment on this report? Seeing none. Do you see anybody on Zoom? Okay. Seeing none, we will thank Principal Planner Getz for your presentation. Have a great evening. Moving on to our water meter update project with Deputy Director of Public Works, Brian Issa. It's like the old days. They used to pray for us. Just everybody gets their 3 minutes.
Council, I'm here tonight to talk to you about water metering and our water meter upgrade project. Just a quick overview of what we'll go over. We'll talk about the background and system overview. I'll go over a little bit of how the system actually works, of how we deliver water to the customers, the various components of that system that ultimately results in a bill being issued and revenues coming in. Talk about the scope of the project, progress to date, and where we're going to go from here. So just a quick background. Obviously, we have a system of water mains and tanks and delivery systems in the city, and what we're really going to be talking about is the meter that sits in front of the house, usually in a meter box. This is what measures the water going through the system to the house, ultimately measuring consumption. That is the delineation point between the private system and the public system. So the meter is ours, it's owned by the city, it's maintained by the city. At the valve on the back side of the meter, that's where the customer's plumbing takes over going into the house. So the metering system is composed of the water meter, which has several components, including the register that goes on top of the meter, and a transmitter that registers the usage and sends it to the system, which is picked up by our folks driving around with a computer in the car. It's picked up via radio. That's sent to our billing system, which then generates a bill which goes out to the owners. And I'm going to just play just a short 1-minute video. Hopefully it won't have an ad in front of it.
Yeah.
That will talk about how water meters work. Hopefully this will do it.
Monzo.com makes scans.
And of course there's an ad.
I'm not going to say again because they never were and they're complicated. See, with Monzo.com.
Let's not watch the whole thing.
Badger's disc meters are ideal where there's a low flow rate, making them a perfect choice for residential use. Here's a step-by-step description of that process. Water flows directly into the meter housing. The water first flows through the meter's internal strainer before it enters the measuring chamber. The strainer protects the measuring chamber from damage due to debris in the water. Inside the chamber assembly is a movable disc that's located on a sliding ball guided by a thrust roller. As the water flows into the measuring chamber, it causes the disc to nutate, a motion similar to a coin dropped on a table. Notice that the disc does not rotate, but rather wobbles on its axis. Therefore, the space formed between the disc and the chamber wall has a constant volume as it moves around the chamber. The water in the chamber is a fixed volume, or displacement. That's why a disc meter is called a positive displacement meter. The smooth motion of the disc also eliminates the annoying noise produced by some other types of positive displacement meters. As this happens, the nutating disc translates its movement through a magnetic coupling to the register. The water then leaves through the outlet port of the chamber assembly.
So there you have it in a nutshell. That's how the water meter itself
Today we're
works.
going to check out the EG418K, and this is a
Let's not do
completely
that.
new...
We're not going to check that out. Sorry, as interesting as that sounds. So the water meter is housed within a box. This becomes important. We'll talk about the box and the lid in a minute, but there's multiple different sizes of these. They've changed over the years all throughout the city. There's also multiple lid types and sizes. Some of them are plate steel, some are cast iron, some of them are polymer, some of them are crappy old plastic. It's not very homogeneous throughout the city. The current lids do not have a mount for the antenna in the lid, which becomes important. So you can see here in this diagram of a new lid, it actually has a port for the antenna to be surface mounted in the lid. The boxes that we have currently, either the metal lids or the concrete lids, don't have that. The transmitter actually sits down inside the box. That's going to be important. We'll talk about that in just a second. So the history of our meter reading system, everything was replaced in 2006, 2007. That included a move from walking the meters and manually reading the dials to a radio read system that we have today. The transmitters on those had an estimated 20-year life. We're coming up on 20 years, so we knew that these were going to go bad. And they were, because of the type of transmitter, they were able to read through a concrete and metal lid. The signal doesn't experience a lot of interference from a ferrous metal lid. The status of the meter reading system is that the battery started to die in 2020. It was kind of one or two here and there. It wasn't anything that was very alarming. In early 22, they started dying at an increasing rate. And we started tracking the total number of dead meters to try to get an idea of how fast that was going to progress. That summer, the number of dead meters just took off, and forecasting showed that without further action, we'd be reading a full 25% of our system by hand by June of 23. So we actually have, not sure what that is. So this is kind of a plot of where we were at the time. And actually, let me do this. This will make it a little easier. So this is a plot of where we were at the time. And then this is where we're going. This is when we did the projection. And these are the plots of where we've hit on the line. So we're actually following the projections pretty much exactly. We lose around 250 meters per cycle. That's a lot of our total population of 10,000 meters. So it became a big deal. The dead meters have to be read visually. We have to send out people to the meter to open the lid, move the dirt, clean the dial, and physically read and write down those reads. So if somebody is reading and writing it down, transferring it to finance, who hand enters it into the system, that's all places the error can get incorporated. It went from one person reading meters 8 hours a month to 4 people reading meters full time during the read cycle. We started to have trouble getting the reads to finance in time to actually get the bills out, and we were basically one water break emergency away from not being able to get the reads to finance in time. So what we did was we worked with finance to move to only billing every other month. So we bill every month, but we only read every other month. And the months in between are estimated with a true up the following month. That gave us a little bit of breathing room to be able to start replacing equipment and starting to play catch up. We started doing that in March. Many utilities do it that way by default, so it wasn't anything, we weren't reinventing the wheel. We were just, there's actually buttons in the system that you can push that make it do that. And we accelerated the project timeline for replacing the transmitter equipment. So we'll talk about the scope of the project. So there's a couple of questions we had to answer. The first one is, what type of system were we going to go with? So 20 years later, obviously the technology has moved on. There's basically two types of systems now. There's a cellular-based system, and there's a fixed-based system where the transmitters transmit their signal to a tower network, essentially, and then that is read via the web and transferred to our system. We'll talk more about each of those. We had to decide whether we were going to replace the actual meter body, the brass meter body that we just looked at. because it is possible to separate the register from the body and just replace the register and the transmitter and not replace the meter body. So would we do it as a contractor or would we do it in-house? That was another open question, and what the overall project costs were going to be. So the fixed base system basically uses a network of antennas that are owned, they're erected, they're owned by the city, they're maintained by the city, our own network, which we don't have currently. They provide you some good benefits, which are real-time reading. So you're actually reading the meters constantly, as opposed to right now where we have to drive around and pick them up. The network would read them all the time in real time. That allows people to see their water usage in real time via the internet, which is a good benefit. It'll flag leaks and send messages to the user about leaks through email, through text, etc. Provides a customer portal where people can get in and look at it in the way that people look at their PG&E bill. So you can actually compare month to month. You can see all sorts of different statistics. Lower staff costs because we don't have to have a vehicle and people out driving around all the time using fuel. So less emissions. The cons of a system like this is that it would delay the project because we'd actually have to build out that system because it does not exist currently. The initial costs of operating, owning, and maintaining towers. Long-term maintenance, it is specialty work. It's tower climbing and antenna work. You need multiple towers to cover the entire city because of our topography. You can't just get away with one. You'd still get less than 100% coverage, and some of them would end up on the cellular network anyway. They will not transmit through a metal lid. So that becomes a problem when you have 3,500 metal lids in the system, which would all need to be replaced. And the whole system is cellular backhauled anyway, so it ends up on the cellular system one way or the other. So in terms of emergencies and redundancies, you're not really gaining a whole lot there. So for the cellular system, the pros are pretty much all the same, except that you get an immediate startup because the towers are already there. We don't own and operate a cellular network. They're just out there. We would ride on those as any other carrier. You get real-time reading. You get existing network coverage, which is very close to 100%. You get water conservation, all of the other things that you get with the fixed network system. You get free network maintenance and upgrades. As they build out their system, we get that benefit without any additional cost. This is what the meter manufacturers are recommending. This is basically the wave of the future in meter reading, is to just ride on the cellular network. Lower staff costs, lower emissions. The cons of the system would be monthly costs because you do pay a per meter monthly fee. It's in the realm of about 86 cents right now. That's one of the few costs that is actually decreasing over time as the Internet of Things builds out. That riding on that network gets a little bit cheaper, but they will not shoot through metal lids either. It's a different type of antenna, and it requires some creative thinking when it comes to the metal lids. So the meter bodies, would we replace the meter bodies, or would we leave those in the ground and just replace the registers and the transmitters? So in looking at that, we had to look at meter condition, meter accuracy, and in terms of accuracy, if you lose accuracy over time, because meters don't speed up, they only slow down over time. So if you're losing ability to track that water, you're going to lose revenue. So we had to weigh that, make sure that we weren't going to lose revenue as we look out over time. Project logistics, changing the meters is a much different project than just changing the transmitters. The transmitter is one set screw, you take it off, you unscrew the register, you put a new one on, you log it into the system, and off you go. Replacing the meter is plumbing work. Quite often you're going to break the system, you're going to break the plumbing on the backside, so then you're doing plumbing for the customer, or you're calling the customer to call a plumber to do that. It just is a much different project. And the cost, because the meter bodies are not cheap. So what we did is we pulled a statistical sample of our meters and sent them off to Badger's facility to get tested. And what we found is that they were well within the industry standards for a brand new meter. We have good water. It's not terribly hard. It doesn't build up, and it does not seem to affect the accuracy of our meters. So what we saw is there was really no reason to replace the meters at this time. And we were going to save quite a bit of money by not doing that, just in the cost of the meter bodies and the install. When we looked at how much revenue could potentially be lost over the 20-year life if we leave those meters in the ground for another 20 years, somewhere on the order of $325,000, that's far outweighed by the cost of replacing the meters and the cost of construction to do that work. So we did make the decision to leave the meters in the ground and just replace the registers and the transmitters. So the total purchase cost of those meters is around $750,000. and that would have changed the project scope a lot. So we did decide to just leave the meters in the ground and replace them. And then we can always replace them one at a time if they start going bad, and we continue to keep track of them over time. So the lid issue, both the fixed base system and the cellular system require surface mounting in a non-ferrous lid. We have a variety of lids. You can see in the picture there, there's some of the old cast iron lids as well as some plate steel lids. There's about 3,600 of those in the system. Retrofit lids are not available for those because the lip is actually custom made and they're only about 3/8 of an inch deep. So we can't take the lid off and drop an aftermarket lid in because the polymer aftermarket lids are about 2 inches thick with rebar in them. So you'd be replacing the entire box, which means jackhammering the concrete, pulling the box out, putting a new box in, redoing the concrete. Gets very expensive. The cost of that part of the project alone was over $5 million. So we have 10,000 of these in the system. So what we did decide to do was go with what's called a vault retrofit. So this is a kit that's made by a third party where we take the lids, have them plasma cut for less than $20 a piece. The retrofit kits are about $110 a piece. We plasma cut, blow 4 holes in them, mount that thing in, and that allows the transmitter to sit in a non-ferrous setting and transmit via the surface. So we can use the existing lids. It doesn't look great, but it's by far the lowest cost alternative, and it does get us where we need to be. So leaving the meter bodies in the ground, going with a cellular-based solution, using our crew to replace the equipment as opposed to having a contractor. Right now we're sort of focusing on the dead meters just to try to catch up. The whole project will take about 18 months to complete to get total turnover of all the equipment. The estimated cost is less than $4 million. And we've already spent about $1 million of that just on equipment. The equipment has gotten more expensive, as with anything else that has microchips in it. It's just the way of the world right now. So on the question of whether to outsource this to a contractor or keep it in-house, some of the things we thought about were just the benefits of doing this ourselves. And to me, those benefits are primarily cost savings. So you're saving, $600,000 to $1 million depending on the scope of the project and the contractor involved. More importantly, we get oversight and communication. So everybody that's involved, from finance to the crew who's out doing the installs to somebody like me on the back end doing QA QC work to make sure that we're getting everything set up correctly. That just leads all of us to have a better understanding of the system, and you're going to get a better quality work from the people who know that they're going to have to fix it later if they screw it up. They're not going to just finish the contract and be like, we're out, have fun. They're going to have to go back and fix it if they goof. So we did decide to try to do it in-house. It's ambitious, but I think we'll pull it off. And it's been a good team building exercise. So everybody gets to get out of their silo and experience different parts of the system. The meter readers get to talk to the finance people, who get to talk to the data people, who talk to the GIS people, and we're all working on the same project. So as an overall look at the total cost of the project, and these numbers have a lot of variability in them, but right now we are anticipating about $3.6 million total for the cost of the project. We built this into the rate study currently at $6 million. It was actually built into the previous rate study as well. The $6 million in the rate study was including some anticipated box replacement and removal. So this isn't going to affect the rates in the next 5 years. And I'll show you, there's a little more about that. But to date, we have changed the billing cycle. We developed a GIS mobile-based platform. So working with our GIS specialist, we have iPads in the field, so there is no hand entry of anything. We've got barcode scanners where they go out, they take pictures of the old equipment and the new equipment, they scan the barcodes, they lock everything in, and they're off and running. We can see it in real time. When they replace a meter, it turns green. Running through that process, just eliminating human errors. So there's nobody writing down or transcribing numbers at all in this process. And then we have photo backup of the old meter and the new meter with the reads in case anything gets lost in translation. We've trained our crew and performed a test batch of 200 swaps. We've been trained by Encode and uploaded the first batch of meters through their meter upload mass meter swap program, they call it, which is what actually updates our billing system. It was a little scary. It took 4 consecutive meetings to get it to work, but a lot of that is just the way their script is built, and it's very particular. So we feel like we've gotten past most of that. I did an upload today, and it only took about 10 minutes compared to 6 or 8 hours for the first one. So we are getting more efficient at it. We've ordered 3,500 registers and endpoints, which are in various points of delivery. The lag time on delivery on equipment is still pretty good. And we have 3,500 lids and vault kits on their way. We've done an analysis of equipment burn rate and staffing, trying to figure out the best way to do it. We have budgeted for overtime. It is in the budget request, both for temporary and for overtime for our crew to be able to come in and do some of that work on after hours or on Saturdays. That's going to be important to us because of the way we're staggered with the read schedule. It just gets, there's windows of time that get blocked out where we can't do any of the actual swap work because it will get ahead of what's going on in the billing system and goof things up. And so we have these kind of narrow windows in the billing cycle where we can go out and hit it really hard and do a replacement and get it done by this date and then move on to the next section. So it is going to require some overtime. We have submitted a loan through the state revolving loan fund. It was previously approved by the council for a grant submittal for a clean water grant. We were turned down for that. They told us that it just wasn't the type of project that they were going to fund. It's all water conservation all the time now. But we have submitted for the loans. The environmental review has been prioritized because that creates kind of the checkpoint. Once the environmental part of the application is approved, then you're eligible for reimbursement funding for anything you purchased, even if the whole the whole loan hasn't been approved yet. So that's where we're working on that. The next steps is to sort of streamline the post-processing, the data cleanup part of it to make that a little bit quicker. Implementing a full QA/QC, quality assurance, quality control system, so we make sure that we know what we did and we can look back at it and make sure when things show up weird in the system, we can track down why we made them look weird. That sounds trivial, but it's actually really difficult and very important. Getting up to full speed, replacing the equipment, upcoming equipment orders and budgeting, and dealing with the metal lids and having those shipped over to Bay Tank to get cut. They're giving us a really good price on it, so we've started doing that. So again, we talked about the impacts on the rate. We're not going to see this impact the rates until 2028, at which point we'll do a reevaluation for the next 5-year period, which will include an analysis of the cost of the project and whatever ongoing monthly cellular charges there might be. And with that, I will take any questions you might have.
Thank you. Do we have any questions? Councilmember Contreras-Deloche?
Well, first I wanted to say that I appreciate the research and creativity that obviously went into this so that you could find ways to save money. So I really appreciate that. It seems like you guys checked into a lot of different ways to do that. So my question may possibly be really dumb potentially, but I feel like I'm just out of my wheelhouse on something I understand. With it being cellular based, intermittently, like during natural disasters or other things, we can run into these kind of snafus with cellular service. And I was just curious, the potentiality for impact with that.
It's actually a different type of signal than what you get in voice on your cell phone. It's more akin to being able to send text. So the bit rate is very small, and it's using a very, very tiny bit of bandwidth that's in kind of a reserved section of the bandwidth. So it'll go out there and it'll talk till it gets through. It'll kind of float around until it gets through, and it has a higher probability of getting through. Even where cell coverage is kind of spotty, you may get broken up voice calls on your phone, but a text will get through. This will get through even at least as good as a text, if not better. So in an emergency situation where the cellular grid is completely down, the meters will just continue to log internally, and then they talk, and it just won't see a tower, and it'll just keep talking until the tower comes up, and then as soon as it talks to the tower, it'll just give it all the information and pick up as if nothing happened. At least that's the theory.
Councilmember Moulton?
Okay. What's going to happen to the little things that get cut out?
The ones that get the little pieces
Because
of
I'm
metal.
just like, you know, somewhere there's going to be thousands and thousands of little metal circles that might say city or Eureka or have little stars on them, and that interests me.
We had a large internal debate about whether we were going to cut out part of, because they say Eureka Water Department, whether we were going to cut out part of Eureka or Water Department on the end, and we decided Water Department was more important because it's an identifier in the field for people doing locates and other things.
So there's a bunch of metal circles that say
there will
Eureka?
be a bunch of metal circles over at Bay Tank, and I assume they'll get recycled along with everything else that waste cut off stuff.
How fast do I have to find an artist to make something out of those before they recycle
Plenty
them all?
of time.
Okay.
Deputy Director Issa, could we make them available like we did the bricks for the Lloyd building?
Possibly. I could talk to the folks at Bay Tank and see if they I'm sure they would set them aside for us if we wanted to keep them.
I don't want to cause a storage issue, but I'm work on finding somebody to make good use of those for some Eureka City water-themed artwork. Thank you.
Yeah, let me know.
Thank you. Councilmember Fernandez.
You guys saved a lot on those lids, so thank you for that. And anytime we can do anything in-house, I appreciate it too. I mean, we're keeping our own people at work on that, and you found a way to save $600,000 doing it. And you kind of touched on something there at the end too about the continuing to pay for the cellular access, and so I was curious about how that would work. I understand we're saving quite a bit by not building our own infrastructure for it, so I'm curious how it works because cellular isn't a public utility, so we've got to pay someone for it, and I'm curious how that process will work.
We get billed based on the number of accounts through our meter vendor. And we do currently have a couple hundred of the cellular meters, and so they bill us just based on the number that we have. So we don't have to pay a cellular company separately for that. We're just paying the meter vendor.
Right, so it's not going to like Verizon, AT&T, or anything like that. We have a third
ultimately,
party.
I'm sure some
well,
portion of it
ultimately,
is,
yeah,
but-
that's the idea. But we're not using those. We're using a third party to handle that.
Correct.
Okay.
It's being handled through Badger Meter because they reserve a certain amount of space
in the spectrum
for their systems.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? So we'll open this item up for public comment. Does anybody from the public like to comment? No, thank you. Do we have anybody on Zoom?
We do not.
We do not. Thank you for your report.
You're very welcome.
Okay, much appreciated. All right. Moving on to I-4. We are at tribal council meetings. City Manager Slattery.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening again, Mayor and Council. This item here came as a request from the Wiyot tribe. They were thinking about the meetings that we had had previously when we were giving over the remainder of Tuluwat and how we had met with 2 elected officials and their entire tribal council to discuss that happening. And Mayor Brigel had been in discussions with the tribe about bringing back would be similar to our 2x2s that we do with Eureka City Schools and the county, to collaborate with the Wiyot, see where there's some synergy, see where we can partner together, and also make sure that we're not being redundant in some of the stuff that we're pushing forward. And so I've been in discussions with them. What we're looking for is 2 elected officials to participate in this meeting that is yet to be determined, whether it's monthly or quarterly. That'll be determined in consultation with the Wiyot. But in my discussions with the Wiyot, they really felt as though the leaders of each of the elected bodies were there, and so I think they have an expectation of the mayor being there. And so I think that this would be an opening for one of our council members to participate in a 2x-tribal, we'll call it, 2x-tribal council meeting. And as soon as we figure out who that participant would be, we'd work with them on frequency and dates and those type of things.
Thank you. So do we have anybody and everybody interested in this? We're going to Rochambeau for it? Okay, so we have how many people? So Councilmember Contreras-Deloach, Councilmember Castellano, Councilmember Fernandez.
I'm full up with the JPA.
Okay. So we've got 3 people for one position. So do you want to discuss it amongst yourselves? No. How do you suggest we handle this, City Manager Slattery?
I didn't expect you to ask me that question.
Oh. How do you
I mean, the same way we do previously for the other 2x2s.
I would think,
I mean, I just think a discussion is appropriate, and if there can't come to a consensus, then potentially a vote.
Okay. Does anyone want to nominate anybody? That always seems to be a workable solution.
I could nominate Councilmember Fernandez.
Okay.
Helpful.
Yeah, I'd do that.
Okay. And then do we have to vote on each nomination separately, or? So we have a nomination,
If
and we
there's
have
multiple.
3 people still interested, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, do you want to Rochambeau?
I mean, the last time we did this, if we can come to consensus, you could get down to throwing.
We could also discuss. I mean,
Yeah, I think
maybe it'd
discussion would be good.
Maybe hearing about
Okay.
if folks have, because I'm not attached to any. You know, I mean, I think any of us would do a great job, and so just kind of, if maybe people have ongoing relationships or engagements, you know, from the past that could be built upon in terms of relationship.
Okay. So who cares to go first? Councilmember Fernandez?
This is something I would just be proud to be part of in the conversation. I understand the history that Leslie that you have working through the Inc. people, and I understand the history that you have being on this council. From my perspective, it purely comes down to the identity of identifying as someone as part of an out group. I don't bring it up often. I don't like to, and I don't like to make it an issue of being biracial. So I'm just going to leave it at that at this point.
Thank you. Councilmember Contreras Deloach?
I relate to what Councilmember Fernandez just said. I also don't discuss it very often or very openly, but same. So I think it's an area of particular interest to me, and I think I understand and relate to a number of different concerns and thought processes, probably that are there because of my own family history and my family's enrollment in the tribe.
Thank you. Councilmember Castellano?
Yeah, I mean, I have, you know, friendships with tribal members. And also, though, I'm, you know, would be really proud to support someone else. I was just thinking, I know Councilmember Contreras Deloach is the city county 2x2 member. So just kind of thought of another council member being in, you know, in that position for the, you know, kind of a 2x2 with other governments. But totally, again, you know, like honoring everyone's right. I think I'm gonna take myself out of it just because I feel like, yeah, just want to support you all.
Thank you.
Yeah, we can do that now. It's
So
down
you
to
want to
2.
do rock, paper, scissors?
Much better than
Oh,
a
let's
coin
flip a coin.
flip, I'll tell you that.
Do you have a coin? She has the official coin. All right, you guys. There is an official.
I saved it from the citizens who donated.
No, not that I'm aware of.
I didn't ask for it.
And we do have another item coming forward
And I've
next.
got a report out from it too.
To be on another committee, so there are other opportunities.
Arguably less fun, I'm sure.
Well, that all depends.
You know, if Unruly Julie's on it.
There you go. You can.
was Councilmember Castellano saying that it would be a good idea, since I'm on the 2x2, to maybe not be a part of this, or you were saying that you saw it? I was trying to clarify what you were saying.
Okay. I was just thinking in terms of, kind of spreading around the 2x2 love or wealth, or so to speak, if since you hold a position with another government already, for another council member to be in that spot. But again, I don't, not attack,
So,
way to reduce the importance of our schools.
so if
Local agency.
So,
Anyway.
if there's no further discussion, we'll drop the coin that I just dropped, yes. So, do we have any further discussion? Okay. So, let's see. Who are we gonna? Okay. You call it, Councilmember Fernandez.
Why me? Go ahead.
Okay, you don't have to.
No, I'm prepared.
Are
I'll
you
go.
deferring?
Yeah, no,
You good?
I'm good.
Call it.
Heads, tails.
Oh, damn. Look, darn. And it is, what is it, Councilmember Bauer?
It's heads. Oh, I thought it
It's
landed
heads.
tails.
Congratulations. And thank you, everybody, for your interest in this. This is an important, important.
You can be my alternate. We need an alternate for it, don't we?
It would be good to have an alternate for sure.
There you go.
Okay. Sorry.
I love how we get along. Okay, so we've got Councilmember Fernandez will be our Wiyot Tribal Council liaison. Councilmember Contreras Deloach will be our alternate. So thank you, everybody, and thank you, Councilmember Castellano, for your graciousness. We appreciate that. I-5, Humboldt County Community Services District 2x2.
Thank you again, Mayor and Council. This came from negotiations that we have. We are in an agreement with Humboldt Community Services District. That agreement establishes what ratio they pay for us to treat their wastewater, and they also pay for a portion of the collection system. But anyway, as a part of that agreement, there's a periodic review that happens of that agreement. And as part of that agreement, City Attorney Luna has been working with their legal counsel on trying to develop that amendment or that update to the agreement. One of the requests from that came out that they would like to hold a 2x2 between two of their board members, two of our council members, to discuss the CIP projects and other projects that go in front of council. And so we're requesting that there's two council members that would be willing to participate in this. This would be meeting quarterly, and they really want to meet soon too. So I told them that I'd get back to them as soon as we made this determination, and try and coordinate something as soon as possible to meet with their board members.
Thank you.
Just as an aside, I do know that their board met recently and did appoint two members on their side. So they're ready to go when we are.
Ready to go. So do we have any interest from council or nominations? Councilmember Bauer?
I'm interested.
Great.
Do you know who the members are? Sorry.
Are you basing it on that? I'm just joking. I'm totally joking.
I was afraid you would ask, but I don't know. The email that I got from their council today did not include that information. And while I was intending to follow up, I didn't get a chance to before this meeting. Okay. So I apologize.
I do know that it took multiple meetings. They've had discussions about this, and there was eager board members that wanted to be a part of it. So I know that this took more than one board meeting for them to come to the decision on what the two board members would be.
They couldn't just flip a coin.
We can assure you that it wouldn't be board member Hanson, because there would be a conflict there.
It's more. I'm on the board of one of the board members' organizations, so I don't know if that would be. I don't know. Okay, it's probably fine. Great.
Are those meetings in the day or in the evening?
We could be flexible. That's like I said, they're going to be quarterly, so we could do it based on availability. likely, I believe the majority of their board members do work, so it would likely be either a lunchtime or an evening, late afternoon meeting.
I mean, depending on the timeline, I could potentially do it if no one's interested, but I'd rather defer to someone else if they're interested. I just can't meet before 4 o'clock.
I think this would be they would prefer
a council member.
A council member to
good.
that's a voting member.
Also, I will just say that while quarterly isn't out of the question, I don't know that we agreed firmly to quarterly. It may be less than that, depending on the need. There's also been agreement to have, at the staff level, there be more engagement and meetings. And so if anyone is scared off by quarterly, I think that is flexible.
So we're nominating.
I mean, I'm totally willing to do it, and I, appreciate, good diplomacy between, the city of Eureka and the municipal water services or community services district. So I'm happy to be that diplomat in this case.
So we have Councilmember Castellano and Councilmember Bauer. Do we need an alternate?
Always a good idea, although likely not necessary because of the flexibility, but it's always a good idea.
Would anybody be willing to be an alternate? I could fill in.
I see a hand.
Councilmember Fernandez. Assistant City Manager, do we need to, I just thought about this, do we need to vote on these two items? We're good, okay. Are we all in consensus? Yes? Great, thank you. Okay, moving on to future agenda items. Are there any future agenda items that we want to? Councilmember Bauer?
I had written down, Councilmember Castellano, an update on the climate action plan. So thank you for bringing that up. Because I saw the 2024 date and I'm a little annoyed that it's going to be 6 years now. But so I support that. And in relation to that, it's been a while since we talked about the solar facilities we were going to put on the big tank. And I think there was one other location. Just a update, and it has doesn't be a big presentation or anything. Just kind of hear what's going on would be great.
Thank you.
Anybody agree?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilmember Fernandez.
I've got two pieces. One going back to earlier asking us to sign on to the county's letter against hate put out on April 27th.
So I should have brought this up before. That was sent to my office, and I did sign onto it on behalf of the city of Eureka. If you want to do it as the council, that can be done as well.
Is that redundant, or is that something you feel like we need to do?
When it was sent out, they knew that they had a time frame, and I don't know if that time frame has passed, and I think that's the reason why they were asking for it. They had a deadline of, I believe, yesterday at noon or something like that. So I don't know if that's passed. We could bring that back.
I mean, if you've already signed on behalf of the city, I don't see a problem with having to redouble the efforts.
Okay.
And then the other piece I wanted to, which I'll get into in my report, I'd like to invite the Redwood Region Climate and Community Resilience Hub, the core hub, to come and present their projects that they've been working on.
Is that?
Oh, sorry. The Redwood Region Climate and Community Resilience Hub, core. They operate out of Humboldt Area Foundation.
Community benefit package? Is that them?
Yeah, that's one of the things that they're working on. They have other projects, but that would be something for them to present on as well, in addition to the other works that they have going.
So would they like to see that on the agenda? Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Anything further? No. City manager reports.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening again, Mayor and Council. So tonight I just wanted to announce to the public and go over a brief synopsis of what we're doing for strategic visioning. So this Friday, the doors at 3030 L Street will be open for our first day of strategic visioning. That'll be done by Burke Brown Incorporated. They'll be facilitating it. I know he's reached out to him and his partner have reached out to you guys and had discussions. We're meeting with them tomorrow at our department head meeting to discuss. And for the public to know, it starts at 9 o'clock on Friday. It's at 3030 L Street, the fire training classroom next to the water tank. The doors will be open at 8:30, and there'll be snacks for council at 8:30. Public comment on the first day will be held at 9:30.
City manager, that is at 10:30 on Friday?
Oh, excuse me, 10:30, because the next day is 9:30. So yeah, 10:30 on Friday, public comment will be held, and then we should be convening. Likely, it says 3 o'clock on the agenda, but likely it'll be more like 4 o'clock. The second day will also be open at 8:30 in the morning, starting at 9. Public comment on that day will be at 9:30. And so we look forward to having you. We're going to be, meeting that evening at the Sea Grill for dinner as well. So we look forward to doing that and looking forward to coming up with initiatives for the next 2 to 5 years. And I think that it'll be good to work with a new group of people and some fresh faces. So look forward to doing that.
And City Manager Slattery, the public can come and be there all day. We just have specific public comment periods, right?
Yes, it's a public meeting just like any of the council meetings. So yes, if people choose to do it from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m., yes, it's a public meeting. They're definitely welcome.
Thank you. Do we have any further questions?
Yeah.
Councilmember Fernandez?
Is there a particular reason we chose, I think it was said 10:30 for public comment?
Just for an introduction from Burke and have a discussion. And I believe we're even going to go over some of the previous outcomes of the initiatives that were developed 2 years ago.
And I understand the agenda's already been put out, but was there a particular reason we didn't choose the noontime hour so it would be a bit more accessible or even later in the day?
There wasn't any reason behind it. I think that the public comment was to be done at the beginning of the day to take that into consideration while we're going through the initiatives and stuff that we're doing through the rest of the day.
And I understand there's still an opportunity on Saturday.
Yes, and we're putting out information on social media. We're encouraging people to write in as well and email so that they can make comments to that. And we're sending it to part of our diversity, equity, inclusion. We've established a leadership group, and it's now called the Humboldt Equity Consortium. And we're reaching out to them and notifying them that this is going on as well. So hopefully we can get some. If they can't be there in person, they can provide either a phone call to an elected official or an email for public comment.
And there will be a working lunch on Friday, so that was our facilitator had kind of laid out the schedule of events, and this is the first time we've had a Saturday strategic visioning, so I think that when we were in discussions, we felt like that was an opportunity for those folks who are working that could possibly come on Saturday.
Okay, thank you.
So there is no Zoom. It's all in person, correct?
Correct.
But
It's
it will
all
be
in person.
No, it won't be recorded.
Will not be recorded.
Okay. So if you'd like to know, show up. Great. Anything further? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we shall now move on to council reports. And let's start with Councilmember Contreras-Deloche.
Sorry, I was mid-yawn. So sorry. A little bit of a lighter thing because we've just been passing around one thing after the other. I've got a toddler, so we've had a lighter couple of weeks. But I got to do the Navigation Center workshop, which was really great to kind of get to ask questions and find out about that. And then, again, I always try to meet with a couple of local business owners because my area goes down through that. And then have got to set in on some of our Zoom meetings talking about housing and with Councilmember Castellano. And it's been great to just kind of hear what the plans are, and just everybody really trying to brainstorm and really coming up with so many ideas and different ways to, work with us. And then also got to meet with some local homeless advocates and just talk with them. And I don't know if they'd want me to name it or not, but anyway, so it's just been really informative, good couple of weeks.
Thank you. Councilmember Fernandez.
The Redwood region, yes. The committee that...
Your mic's not on.
Just a lot going on there. All right, let's try this again. The Redwood Region Economic Development Commission, the committee that you so glowingly handed off to me. Thank you, Councilmember Contreras-Deloche. We received a presentation from the Humboldt County Growers Alliance on their perspective of the state of cannabis. It's not too great. And then just economically and how the industry's faring. We also approved the joining of REDAC and as a member of the Core Hub Offshore Wind Community Benefit Network. And something else aside, let's see. Yeah, I'm looking into hosting a town hall for Ward 3, my ward, on potentially Thursday, May 18th.
Thank you. Councilmember Castellano.
Let's see. I attended the Navigation Center meeting, and yeah, it was great to see other council members and Mayor Burgell and city staff there. The Redwood Poetry Festival, which was put on by the Eureka Poet Laureate Will Gibson, and that took place over the last kind of amazing 40 events over 2 weeks. So much poetry, and this really beautiful group of people going to all the events and taking workshops and things. I think many of us were at the League of Women Voters lunch. I attended a Eureka Main Street meeting. And I wanted to let folks know on May 6th from 6 to 9 p.m. is the Eureka Chinatown Festival. So, go out, celebrate Arts Alive. The road in front of the Clark Museum will be closed down. There should be, I think the lion dancers are coming into town again. And then I was asked to join the California Association of Nonprofits board. So though it's not a city council position, let me be clear about that. I just wanted to let the public know that I will be sitting on that board, kind of representing nonprofit perspectives from Northern California.
Congratulations. Councilmember Moulton.
I don't have any city-related travel to report. I've also been dealing with the illness in the family, just rotating around. But I am looking forward to some work coming up, and also to Humboldt's oldest and largest cultural event, the Kinetic Grand Championship. Speaking of Bike Month, Memorial Day weekend.
Exciting. Councilmember Bauer.
I did have some city travel. I went to Sacramento. I forget. It was before our last meeting for Cal Cities, and it was a leader summit and representing the Redwood Empire Division. I'm on the board of directors, and we a lot of discussion about fentanyl, meth. We had the Assistant Attorney General come and give us a presentation about winning the lawsuit, the opioid lawsuit, which kind of had to say, well, actually, our little city had a big part in that, but no offense. But it was great talking to all the other cities, and always a good, informative event to go to. I really enjoy working with Cal Cities. We had a JPA meeting, and we had a county 2x2 meeting recently. We had a RCEA, Redwood Coast Energy Authority, had their 20-year anniversary on Saturday, and that was a really cool event. Renee was there. Yeah, you probably that's all right. It was just great seeing the history, people that we all know, John Woolley and those that kind of formed RCEA, and it was really inspirational speeches, and really fun to be there. I want to remind people that Cooper Gulch cleanup is May 6th. I will not be there because I'll be in strategic planning, but please come out and help clean up and get rid of some invasive species out there at Cooper Gulch. And then one last thing, the Grace Martin Memorial Park Design Survey is out, which is a really cool park that we're going to be building on the waterfront. So please take that. I think it's like May 9th or something. You have to have yours done. And lastly, I got to remember, I attended Keep Eureka Beautiful meeting, and it's a great group of people trying to get street trees. And yeah, it's been a good month. Thanks.
Thank you. And I would be remiss to not comment just one more time for City Manager Slattery, but I just wanted to remind people that today is actually the 7-year anniversary of the vacation of Palco Marsh. It was a big deal, and we had, at that time, Captain Stevens did a lot of great work to make that happen, and it was a great opportunity for collaboration with a lot of different agencies, and everybody got along. It was just a really, though it was painful in a lot of ways, it also is a beautiful thing, and we can be thankful now that we have a beautiful trail to walk on that is not what it once was. And I just want to share an appreciation for all the people that I met out there, many of them doing very well, some of them not so well, but I just appreciate them and the friendships that I developed there. So with that, we're adjourned. Thank you, everybody, for being here.